Brandon, thank you obviously for spending time with me here this morning, but do you have to get custom shirts? I mean, your arms.
I'm an off the rack guy, but my wife keeps saying like if you keep lifting, you're not going to be able to fit your clothes anymore. So I'm slowing it down a little bit, but like that's something that like I literally enjoy doing in my off time is just lifting. Like it clears my mind and it's fun to me. So yeah, I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, but your arms, I just can't believe how big your arms are. Do you focus on curls and
every day,
tries?
every day. No matter if I'm doing leg day, I still got to get my curls in at least at the end of the workout. So yeah.
Now, what about the nickname Bam Bam?
Yeah.
Share the story of how that came about, and obviously it has to do with your sports and. Is there some connection to the Flintstones cartoon with Bam Bam?
You know what? I don't know if there's a connection to the Flintstones cartoon, but I will give credit to a lady that actually probably lived maybe 10 miles from here. Her name was Cindy Morley. And then I was a sophomore in high school, and I was a quarterback, and I really wasn't a quarterback. I couldn't throw the ball 10 yards, but I was an option quarterback, and I was fast. So it worked out. And my very first game, I would never get a ball to my fullback. I just keep it every play. And then I just run around the edge and score. And, you know, she wrote this big article after my first game, like, you know, Boykin keeps the ball and bam, he's around the edge. And it just became Bam Bam, like in the story. And then the next week, people at school were calling me Bam Bam. And then it kind of got shortened down to Bam over the years. So like my friends like never call me Brandon. I don't even know if they know my real name is Brandon. Just like, oh, that's Bam. So outside of like, you know, sports, people know me as Bam around where I'm from. And that's kind of how it started.
That's right. Okay. So for your acquaintances, you're Brandon, but your good friends, you're Bam.
Yeah, exactly. And, my wife hates Bam. She hates that name.
Oh, so, she does?
Yeah. For whatever reason. She'll call me Brandon, but when my friends come over and they call me Bam, she's like, what? Who? Why are you calling him Bam? She doesn't like it, but I like Bam.
I think it fits.
I
think it fits.
That's my alter
perfectly
ego.
for you. That's right. So before Bam, let's go back in time. Mm-hmm. And what's your first memories of you discovering sports and realizing that you love sports?
Man, my first memories of realizing I loved sports was probably T-ball. So before I played football, I played baseball, and I loved baseball. Like, I never would have thought I was going to be a football player just because I loved baseball so much, and my dad was my T-ball coach, and we were living in Riverdale, Georgia, and really it was just the fact that when I played, it made him proud. You know, like I saw how proud he was as my dad, number one, and as my coach. And I was probably obviously the best player on the team. So I would just do it to make him happy and see the smile on his face. And I was like, this feels good as a kid. Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a child. And you didn't really know you were good at it. You just enjoyed doing it. And as I kind of got older, he continued to be my coach, and I continued to play. And then I started realizing like I was good at it. But for initially, it was just, being obedient and knowing that what I was doing was making my parents proud and my coach proud and that type of stuff. And that's the type of child I was. Like, I always wanted to please. I always wanted to do things the right way and make sure that I was being obedient and make sure that people around me were satisfied by, what I was doing. And I think that kind of shaped my discipline and shaped my, my belief in, doing the right thing when nobody's looking and stuff like that. Like my dad always taught me. But initially, the part of me that stuck to sports was because of my parents and how it made them feel and how it made me feel about them.
And you mentioned discipline. So how was it growing up in the Boykin household? Was it discipline focused?
Oh yeah, it was very discipline focused. And so I have an older brother. My brother is like complete opposite of me. Like I grew up like wanting to be obedient, and my brother was like the total opposite. Like he
didn't want to have any constraints.
No. He'd sneak out. He'd do anything, and like I'd help him because I'm a good brother. Like I'd leave a window open for him. I'd do stuff like that. Like I help him push the car out of the driveway at night. Like to those type of extremes. But in our household, it was discipline because my dad didn't grow up with a father. both of my parents came from, not poverty, but country, not really having what they would desire. So they wanted, their children to have more. So they had all these sets of rules, like, we couldn't play video games Monday through Friday, and we could only play on the weekends. And as a kid, that's like crazy.
It's torture.
Right. Like, I'm done with my homework. I can't play video games, but it was like the best thing that could have ever happened to me, as I'm older and as I'm adult, and something I definitely instill in my own children's lives. But just small rules like that, that you didn't understand as a kid, but things that really shaped your mental, really shaped just your mindset. Like, I was actually going outside and playing and things like that I can appreciate now, as you see like millennial kids and stuff, or that are so stuck in the house and not, exercising and doing things like that. So my parents were kind of not ahead of the curve, but they understood.
They definitely were ahead of the curve. Yes, because I struggle with that as a parent.
Yeah.
With 3 teenagers, that's a challenge that we have, because today's society, it's all about these video games, and you have to focus on getting kids outside. And I know as a parent, I haven't done a good enough job, from that side. Yeah. So I'm jealous that parents had that discipline.
It's a huge thing, like you said, as a child, like that's all you look forward to after school. So for me, kind of making that a part of my childhood, and it just became normal. I didn't even think about it, but now I can really appreciate it.
Now, how often did you get in trouble for helping your brother sneak out?
Oh, I never got in trouble.
You didn't. You avoided it.
I was good at helping him out. I never snitched on him either to this day. Me and my brother got a really good bond, really close bond. So when we moved from, Riverdale, which is kind of like a county over, to Fayette County, like, it was a whole different world for my brother and me, but I was younger. So he was kind of rebelling, about he had to leave his friends. He had to do all this type of stuff. And
so how old were you when you guys had to make that move?
I was probably 9 or 10, I think.
And your brother, how old?
My brother was like a freshman in high school. So that was a big change.
That is a big change for him.
One of the most important parts, times of his life, and he had to just change everything. But, me and him were actually just talking about this in the back. Every Sunday, me and him and my dad will go smoke a cigar on the back patio. And, we were talking about how moving to, Fayette County was the best thing that could have happened to us, just from a discipline standpoint, and just a learning standpoint, and understanding of how it's impacted our lives, our friendships, our relationship with each other, and just really thankful for the transition and that little bit of adversity that kind of impacted us to this day.
Yeah, adversity can shape you, that's for sure. So when you're back there with your brother and your dad and you're smoking those cigars, do you have moments of reflecting back and realizing, I've been playing in the NFL. Yeah. I have secured a dream. So when was the dream that you wanted to play professional sports? I know we all, as kids, have that, but when did it really become a true focal point for you?
I'd probably say the realization of that dream was probably I'll say this. I never thought I would play professional football, because I didn't focus on football. I was a basketball player.
Now we're talking. I'm a basketball guy as well.
So when I was younger, I played baseball, and then I played basketball, and to this day, basketball is my passion. I like football, and I play football in the NFL.
Yeah, because you're very good at football as well.
But I love basketball, and anybody that knows me will tell you, I watch basketball all the time. I'll play NBA 2K all day. I won't play Madden. I think it's bad luck to play Madden as an NFL player, because I played with myself one time and I got injured for the season during the video game.
Never do that again.
Never play that again. But I initially wanted to play basketball, and my parents put me in basketball, and I was on all these traveling teams, and I was playing football as well. So at some point we kind of had to sit down and be you got to kind of pick and choose which ones you're gonna do. And I realized I was 5'10", and I didn't have a great jump shot, but I could dunk the ball over everybody.
You got some ups.
So I had to choose football, but basketball was always my passion. But I realized probably 9th grade that I'd be able to do something, hopefully, at the next level, and that was kind of what I channeled my focus towards.
And what schools were recruiting you in high school to play football, and were they also recruiting you for basketball?
Yeah, so basketball recruiting probably was was better than football just because of I was an option quarterback, so I didn't have any like defensive film. So literally the way I got offered by the University of Georgia was that I put my basketball highlights on my football highlight tape, and I sent it to the University of Georgia just randomly. And like 2 weeks later, I got an offer in the mail. And Coach Rick and Coach Martinez, who was the defensive back coach at the time, was like, you know, like, we like you as an athlete, but those basketball clips, man, that's what really did it. And I was like, wow, like, this is crazy. So, and then on the basketball side, like, so I had committed, once I got that offer from Georgia, I was like so shocked.
Were you a big Georgia fan? That's why you sent it to Georgia? Or?
I just kind of like threw my fishing net out to everybody. I was initially like a Georgia Tech fan, which is crazy because my god brother was the running back for Georgia Tech, Tashard Choi. So I would go to the games, and I love the atmosphere, but it didn't compare to Georgia at all. So
a little bit different.
It's a whole lot different. But I'd never seen Georgia. So when I went to Georgia and saw the atmosphere, like I committed on the spot. Like I knew everything inside of me knew like this was where
felt
I was
like home.
Right. So I had committed, but at the same time, that was my junior year. So I had a whole nother season to play basketball and football. And once, you know, people found out I had committed to Georgia, you know, people were just offering me. Like that's how it kind of worked. Like, oh, you got to offer them here and here. Like we'll offer you too. But basketball, I still wanted to play basketball. And I had like a Louisville, a South Florida, a Georgia Tech, like real serious teams looking at me because we had like an All-American on my high school team. So they'd come see him and I'd be playing well too. And they'd be like, okay, well, let's see what he got too. So, that was an exciting time, but,
and so what about trying to play basketball at Georgia as well?
Initially I wanted to, but just the demand of school and, you know, the learning curve of being a college football player and just all of it, like there was no way I could play.
So share some of that demand, because I don't know if people really understand what it's like being a quote-unquote student athlete, especially in football at a prestigious school like Georgia.
Yeah, and you're talking about Georgia, like you're not just gonna, I'm not saying this happens at other schools, but it's like you actually are going to have to do your academic work. It's like you're not going to squeeze by at the University of Georgia, and people don't understand how hard that is. Like you get to the NFL level and like that's your job. Like that's all you do every single day, which is easy. But when you try to, when you're 17, 18 years old and you got to go to college and try to balance out, you know, being the best student you could possibly be and being the best college athlete you can possibly be while learning, like having a learning curve on both, just the college atmosphere, like it could really break you. And I remember my freshman year, I called home so many times, like I don't know if I really want to do this. Like I was broken a couple times as a freshman, you know, like being the best, you've been the best your whole life. And then you come to the University of Georgia and you're like just at the bottom of the barrel. And I wasn't necessarily at the bottom of the barrel. Like I played as a freshman, but it's not like being a man in high school. So you just got like all this pressure of, you know, making good grades. And then like, you know, I hope I don't get redshirted, or I hope I can play and contribute. And, you know, and I got to learn the playbook, and I've never played defense before. So it was just like a lot. And I remember my mom saying like, you know, like just stick to it. And like next year you'll laugh at like how different things are for you if you just, you know, like, you know, apply yourself to the process and, you know, just understand like there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be a little bit of adversity, and you're going to get through it. And I remember like, you know, probably calling home like 2 or 3 times, just like, man, there's no way, like God save me. Like there's no way I'm going to make it through this. And I did. And like every year you see those freshmen come in with the same type of, you know, thought process. And like, it's cool to be able to help them. And like, I was here too. And, you know, me too. And that's the best way to be able to relate to people, is to have that personal experience of doing the same things to help them get through.
Of course. Now, you mentioned you didn't play defense.
Yeah.
So how all of a sudden did you become a defensive player at Georgia then?
Yeah, I was just an athlete. Like, no, they didn't know what I was going to be when I came in.
They didn't know where to put you.
And they just kind of was like, well, you'll be a DB. Like, I played DB in high school, but I was like, I didn't know anything about defense at all. Like I was totally not prepared for college. I was just out there being an athlete, like jumping up, dunking the ball, basically picking balls off. But when I got to University of Georgia, Coach Martinez probably was like the most influential person to my whole college career. Just because he saw something in me, he saw, my potential, and he would be extremely hard on me, and that's part of the reason I felt like I was gonna break, like, because I was like, man, this dude is like
he's all over you,
all over me every single day. But he knew, like, the potential I had, even when I didn't see it. So he'd be questioning me, like in meeting rooms, just asking me questions all the time. I'm like, man, there's like 13 other people in here. Like, why are you always questioning me? Like, all these other freshmen in here. So I really, like, was kind of forced to understand football from a different perspective. And I would meet with him every single day. And I caught up so fast that by the end of my freshman year, like, I was really playing. And then my sophomore year was like my breakout season. And I really got to attribute that to him.
And then you really start breaking on the scene with your punt returns and kick returns. Yeah. And from a guy who's played football, but not at the level that you have, never done punt return or kick return, it looks very hard.
It is very hard.
So what is your mindset when you're out there? These guys are running full speed at you, and you've got a second or two to make a move. Right. So what's that like?
You don't think about it, honestly. You don't have time to think about it. And the crazy part is, like I just told you, I never played defense until college. Like, I never returned a kick until college. And my very first kickoff was like a 100-yard touchdown.
Exactly.
So it's just like, God was looking out for me. He had his covering over me, because I was literally learning as I was playing every single game. Like, I was learning every single game. Okay, I can do this. I can't do this. But I think the part of me, like, not knowing what to expect was kind of like an advantage for me, because, I was just going through it, and I expected to score every single time, because my first one was 100 yards. So you don't think about it. You just kind of, it's crazy what your mind changes to once you're on the field. Like.
But what are you focusing on?
I don't know. Like, I don't even think you're focusing on anything. You're just focusing on, like, not trying to get smacked. It's like the reaction time is just natural. I can't even explain it. Like, I don't see the crowd. You don't see the crowd. You don't see anything when you're on the field. And then when you go back for a game, you're like, wow, I didn't even know the scoreboard looked like that for 5 years. It's just like crazy stuff.
Could you hear the crowd as you're sitting there waiting for the kick?
I couldn't hear anything.
You're that dialed in.
That dialed into the game. You can't hear anything. You're so focused on trying to catch the ball. All you can hear is your own thoughts and your own breath. Just like you'll see in like a movie when the ball's coming in slow motion. That's literally how it is. And you catch it, and then, then you'll hear stuff again. But it's crazy.
Now, what I've also heard is that one of the biggest sins as a returner is that you can never get tackled by the kicker.
Oh, yeah.
So did that ever happen to you?
It did. It did happen to me one time. And we were playing like Coastal Carolina or something. And we were beating them like 56-12 or something. And I got tackled by the kick. Like, I had broke free. And it was like right after halftime. So I was still like kind of tight. But I had broke free, and the kicker tackled me. And their sideline was celebrating like they had like won a national championship, and I like got caught up in their celebrations.
So on their sideline
because he tackled me. So I'm like in the middle of their celebration because he tackled me. That was pretty funny, but that's a sin to get tackled by the kicker.
Now, what about getting hit hard? You talked about you're just trying to avoid getting smacked.
Yeah.
Did you ever have one of those moments where somebody laid you out?
You know what? Luckily, I never got hit to the point where, like, it took me out or it took me out of the game, where it was like a, bang bang play. I guess I could attribute that to just being fearless. Like, if you're fearless and you just catch the ball and you just go, like, more times than not, people are gonna miss. But if you're looking back and forth and you're trying to anticipate it, like, you're gonna get smacked. And that's kind of what I learned. Like,
you just have to react and go.
Yeah, you just gotta go for it. Go for it. Like, even if you're running up for a catch, like, just just go for it. Like more times than not, like you're going to be the one to make the play.
Now, what did you enjoy more, playing defense or going on the offensive side? Because you also played receiver at Georgia.
I loved having the ball in my hands, and man, it took me like 4 years just to get the ball in my hands. I try to talk to Coach Rick every single day, like, Coach Rick, I can play offense. Like, let me, please.
You had to convince him?
Yes, give me one play. And then he just like blow me off, right? And so my junior year, I was gonna leave and go to the NFL. Like I was like, I think I'm ready, and I wasn't ready. Thank God I came back for my senior year. It was the best year of my whole career and like the best experiences. But like, I guess in negotiating with Coach Rick, I was like, like if I come back, I want to play offense. And he was like, okay, like we'll put some packages in for you. So my senior year was when I finally got to touch the ball, and I had like 6 offensive touchdowns.
You had a great year.
Yeah, and he was like, man, I wish we would have did this sooner. I'm like, man, I've been telling you this for 3 years, and but it worked out, man. That's funny. That's funny how I had to negotiate that.
That's right. So what was the moment that made you decide to come back then, rather than going into the NFL your junior year?
It wasn't me, honestly. It was God. Like, it was God that allowed me to stay. And it's such a crazy story. Like, I was gone. Like,
you were mentally checked out.
I was mentally checked out.
Done.
Like, I was gone. I'll never forget. It was like right after the bowl game, like January, we were in Athens, me and my brother. And I had called Coach Rick. And I told him, like, I'm leaving to go to the NFL. And he was, in his soft voice, he was like, Brandon, I think you should just reconsider. And, like, if that's what you want to do, then fine. But I come to the team meeting, and then if you still feel the same way, you can leave. So I'm like, okay. So I called him when I was in Atlanta at my parents' house. So me and my brother drive back to Athens because I was, like, packing up my stuff because I was leaving. So we drive back to Athens. I go to the team meeting, right? Not paying attention to the team, like, I'm gone. And then it's a blizzard comes to Atlanta, like a snowstorm came to Atlanta. And I got stuck in Athens for like 4 days. Like, everything had got shut down. So me and my brother are like stuck in my dorm room apartment or whatever for like 4 days. And if it wasn't for that blizzard, like, that was a sign from God. We got stuck in the snow for 4 days. Like, my truck wouldn't move. So I had a whole bunch of time to think. And then, like, over the course of those days, I was like, you know what? Like, it's probably best if I stay. Like, it just was weighing so heavily on my heart, like my conscience and my soul. Like, I felt like it was meant for me to come back, and like I had a purpose of coming back. And then I called him like on day 3, like, you know what? Like, I'm coming back. You're right. And like, obviously the snow melted.
Like, sun comes out.
The sun
right?
comes out. Like, that must have been for me. But like, it's so crazy how things happen like that. And, like, just, what you think your plans are, what you expect, your life to be like. And that's something I'm still kind of going through, like what your expectations are for yourself or what you envision your life being like. It's, God has another plan, and you're not in control.
It's not always your plan. And obviously you had to even go through that after your senior year. You get hurt in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. Yeah. And that changes, obviously, your trajectory. You were a first-round draft pick. Right. But you end up being a fourth-round draft pick because you break your leg. How difficult was that? Oh, man, that was like the hardest thing. Like, I had experienced adversity in my life. Like, I broke my leg in 10th grade so bad that like the day told me that I probably would never, like, I possibly couldn't play again, like, if my leg didn't heal right. Was it the same leg? Or yeah, it was the same leg. The same leg. And so I overcame that. And then, like, getting to the Senior Bowl, which is like the all-star game of college football, and like, I played amazing that week. And the crazy part about it was that morning I woke up and I told my agent, my mom, my dad, everybody, I was like, something inside of me doesn't feel right. Like, I shouldn't play in this game. I said that over and over and over again. You verbally said that to them? Verbally said it so many times. And then they were like, just play through the first half and then we'll be done. So I get to the last play of the first half. It was a punt and I'm at gunner. It's the last play of the first half. And I run down and my own teammate like runs into me while my leg was planted and like broke my leg in half. And I could not believe it. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And but I fell in the draft,
And I ended up in Philadelphia and was able to play right away and start and, you know, have great years there. So it's just like I was so bitter when it happened. And then, like, you know, God sets you up for something even better. And that's kind of been like a trend in my life every single time. It seems like every single time I'm warranted, like, you know, whatever we think is success in, you know, in our sport or what we feel like we should deserve, like a big contract. Whenever I'm warranted that, like, you know, oh, I'm gonna go first round, something happens, or you know, I played great in year 4, I get traded and I don't play I don't play until week 12 and, you know, that's done. And then now I'm a free agent and I got to scrap my way back to here and I finally get where I'm supposed to be and I get injured. So it's just like, it's been a trend in my life, but, you know, instead of being bitter about it now, I understand that it's set me up for, you know, greater testimonies. It set me up for like a greater purpose. And really that's what this whole football platform is about. Like it's not about me at all. It's about storytelling. It's about sharing. It's about, you know, motivating and inspiring other people. And that's kind of what I've learned through my adversity is that, like, if this is what my journey's supposed to look like to help somebody else like that, it's well worth it. Like, I'd be less fulfilled if everything went my way and I went first round, I got all this money, and I didn't have a story, and I'm just like, everything went my way, and I got money, and I'm empty inside because I don't have, you know, the right perspective or the right testimony or the right attitude about, you know, what really matters in life. And towards, you know, I'd say kind of like the latter part of my career, I'm so happy that I have a testimony and that I actually got something with some substance out of this experience. Because that's what's going to help me move forward and be able to, you know, whether it's my second career or whether it's just and talking to people and inspiring them, like that's what really matters. Like nobody's going to care that I got drafted first round in 10 years, but they will care, you know, that I went through this adversity and I overcame it and I'm still talking and standing today, and like, you know, they can relate to that so much better.
Because that's real life.
Exactly.
People facing adversity and having to overcome, and it is very impactful to see somebody take opportunities when it didn't look like an opportunity was going to be there, right, like yourself, getting hurt, but you're still able to, right, you know, maintain that focus and continue success. And now it seems to me that your platform is now looking at being significant and creating these legacies and these stories that you can, you know, share with people also.
Yeah, and that's the funny part about it too, because like I'm still trying to actively play football, and it's like, you know, I don't have it all figured out even now, and that's
we don't.
Nobody does.
Nobody
right?
does in life.
So
that's
like
right.
It's so crazy when people try to pretend like they got it all figured out, and you know, we never do. And so now I'm kind of in this crossroads of like, you know, where am I supposed to go? Or like, you know, am I supposed to still be playing football? Like, and I'm just kind of like to the point now where I'm like totally submitted to God. Like wherever you want me to be, like that's where I'm going to be. Like I'm tired of like actively like trying to do it myself, because it never works out.
That's right.
Like it never works out. So wherever you want me, like I'm okay with that. Like whatever, you know, my platform is or whatever my title is or my role is in this thing, like that's what I'm going to do. And it's kind of like, you know, people, I'll go to the gym around here and people are like, oh, have you been signed yet? And I'm like, no, like I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
like,
so you're not stressing about it.
No, and it's so weird because that's what we've been taught like our whole lives. Like we have to do something, or like we got to do something to be validated. And it's like my purpose isn't tied to football, or like I don't feel validated when I'm signed to a team. It's like, you know, I feel validated when I'm in sync with like what God wants me to do and what my purpose is, and I feel that in my heart. So, you know, I'm patiently waiting to see, and I'm excited about it, where I'll be and what my purpose is in this season of my life, and you know, it's going to be meaningful. I feel like this is going to be a big, impactful, meaningful year for me. And like I truly feel that in my soul. I'm a type of person that like I meditate daily. I haven't been doing that. I just started probably doing that late 2017. Just meditating, just kind of like being in my own thoughts, and just before I do anything throughout the day, I meditate and just kind of.
Has that helped you a lot?
Oh my gosh, it's helped tremendously. It's, you know, just like, I don't think people understand how powerful your mind is. Like your mind is so powerful. Like your body will do anything that your mind tells it to do. And like it literally, I mean, this is biblical. If you think positive and you speak things into existence, like they will happen. And like I've been, you know, speaking things into existence, and I've been like, you know, saying certain things to myself that I feel like are like manifesting in my life as far as like what I want to do and what's coming to me. And it's literally happening. And it's so amazing. It's
very powerful because on the flip side, you can do the same thing with negative mindset, negative thoughts as well.
Yeah.
What your mind can do is, it blows me away.
Right.
Now, obviously there's God that's, you know, he's got your path, you know, laid out, but it is amazing from that perspective. I'm jealous though. I just can't I can't find the time to meditate, because I would love to do it, and I've tried, but what's your plan? How do you do you wake up and...
Well, being a free agent, I got all this time to meditate, but I've had to kind of, like reprogram and retrain my subconscious. Like you said, like if you don't try to be positive, like just naturally, and your subconscious is going to be negative. It's just the way of the world. Like we worry so much and we stress about stuff, and like the visuals that we see on TV, like everything's so like, you know, conflicted and, you know, just stress levels are high. So it's like you have to purposely like speak to yourself in a positive way. And when I wake up in the morning, I'll have affirmations for myself. Like, you know, I am success, I am health, I am wealth, I'm opportunity. Like I'd say all these things over and over and over. And it's like, not even over time. It's literally like instantly you start to feel different. You start to think different. And I really like monitored how much television I watch, to the point where like I almost don't watch television anymore, which is crazy because I want to be in television, but I don't watch television. Instead, like I do something like, you know, I start reading more, and it's just like, man, like I've almost become a totally different person mentally, and I like it, but it's scary where like, you know, where who I've become and where it's taken me. And it's like, I'm kind of mad, like I didn't do this when I was like in the prime years of my sport, you know?
I have the same mindset that, man, I wish I would have been this mature when I was 27 years old rather than 47 years old. But that's life.
Exactly.
You know? So talking about the TV side and your aspirations from being a sportscaster, share with what your mindset is looking at that as a career, say when you are done playing.
I mean, something I've always been intrigued by, you know, being on camera and being able to talk and express yourself and looking good. Like I love the dress. I love the...
Oh, you always fit the part. I promise you.
So it's something I've always been intrigued by and I want to try. And obviously it's still kind of pertaining to sports. You're able to talk about something that you love, but being on a different side and having to learn a whole new trade and skill of it. And I've enjoyed it so far. But there's also like a lot of other things that I enjoy doing, and I don't necessarily want to just be like a broadcaster. Like I want to find my niche where I can kind of tie it all together. And I haven't found that yet, but I think it's something that I want to do that'll be different, maybe tying in TV and fitness and, you know, fashion all together. So that's kind of what I'm working on. Like I want to do it, but I want to do it differently. Like I don't want to just be another, you know, not saying it's a bad thing, but ex-football player that goes and talks about football. Like maybe I want to talk about basketball and fitness. You know,
you love basketball and fitness. I love all fashion. Talk about it all.
So I believe I can do it, and you know, if I believe that, like I just gotta put the work in to find a way to get it done.
When do you think there will be a point though when you make the decision that, okay, the football journey is over?
Yeah.
What will that look like?
Well, I've been on IR pretty much the past 2 years, which is crazy. Like I tore my pec in 2016, and then I got signed last year in Baltimore, and then I ended up, getting a concussion, which was cleared up, but I was on IR past week 8, so I just didn't get brought back. So I stayed on IR the remainder of the year. So basically, I've been on IR for 2 years. So it's kind of like been out of football. You've been getting paid, which is great, but like you've had a lot of time to kind of focus on what else, your other skills, your other passions. And so I feel like whenever that time comes, if it's, you know, this year or next year or whenever it is, like, I don't feel like the transition will be as hard for me because I've kind of had time to process and think about like what I want to do. And I've kind of got a head start in at least some direction. And that's what people say, like, as long as you do something right away, like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just like, you got to stay active. And then once you kind of get into that routine of doing something outside of football, like you get normalized into it.
And I've talked to other people, they have talked about that transition is difficult for some, that they actually are depressed because they're no longer defined by this athletic ability that they have, or, you know, being a player. But it sounds like with your situation for the past couple of years, you're already kind of changing that mindset.
Yeah. I think it's a blessing. I think it's a blessing, though, to be honest. I think, you know, it's all about the way you look at it, like your perspective. Which is, I had this guy call me, which is so crazy. This random number called me, and I didn't even know who this guy was. And he started talking to me about like things that were actually going on in my life. And he hung up. He said that, like, this is the same thing that he said, you're not playing football right now because you can't. You're playing football because God wants you to, like, realize all these other talents that you have. And I was like, wow, that's, like, he was telling me all this other stuff too, but like, it was so crazy for him to say that, because that's how I was thinking in my mind. Like, why would I get injured 2 years in a row? And like, am I supposed to play again? And I possibly could, but even if I do, like, I've learned so much about myself in these 2 years that there's no way I would have, because, you know, the demand of football, like.
Yeah, you don't have time
to
sit and think.
Right, you don't have time to do any of
your next steps would be.
And so, like, even if I don't play again, like, these 2 years have been priceless. Like I couldn't put a price tag on, like, what I've learned about myself, and I needed that.
That's amazing. And what about how sports has shaped and impacted your life? Share how that has been such a big part of your life.
It's like, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be, you know, who I am or who people perceive that I am, or the relationship that I've made, or my confidence in any, like, it all goes back to sports. Like, that's kind of like what shaped me, as far as, okay, when you're young, you got to find, like, okay, what am I good at? Where do I fit in? And that's been sports. But then along the way, like, you mature and you find yourself, like, okay, like, outside of sports, like, what am I good at? But like, sports will always be a part of it, because without sports, like, you would have never had those opportunities. So, like, I really got to attribute pretty much everything to sports. Just my discipline, my upbringing, my mentality, my ability to, like, you know, forget about this and move forward, and just life. Like sports and life are so synonymous. And I feel like, you know, even my mindset about, you talk about America and, like, culture, and, you know, we live in the South, and, you know, the type of stuff that happens in the South, when you talk about racism, stuff like that, like, sports is the common denominator for everybody. Like, you don't see color, you don't care about ethnicity, background, religion, nothing like that. And it's like, being in sports has allowed me to have such a diverse mindset, and just, like, see people for who they truly are. And, you know, somebody that maybe never played sports will never see that perspective, not because they can't, but just because, like, they haven't had those same experiences. So it's like, without sports, like, you really, you probably won't, I probably wouldn't be who I am as a person, just because, like, I've seen so many different people, and I've been able to interact with so many different people because of it. And, like, it's changed my mindset about everything.
Sports has a unique ability to shape people, without a doubt. What about words of wisdom that has meant a lot to you, that you've leaned on over the years, that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So my mother is, like, she's the biggest, probably, motivating influence in my life. Well, my dad as well, but my mom is just so, she's overcome adversity all the time. Like, just her childhood and her mindset, her determination. But for me, like, I've kind of created my own mantras, and I say, like, the journey is a reward. That's something. And maybe one day I'll get it, like, you know, a small tattoo of it or something. But like, it's so true. It's like, I was speaking at a school the other day, and I was telling them, like, truly, like, the journey is a reward. Like, as people, like, we're so quick to just be like, if I can just get to, if I can get to the NBA, or if I can just get this scholarship, or if I can just, make it to the Hall of Fame, like, as a player, like, it's not about the destination more so as it is about the journey and the things that you go through to get there, and the lessons that you learn, and the relationships. Because, like, it's like, oh, I won $1 million, and it's like that you got the $1 million, but you didn't earn it. Like, there's no path to get it. Like, you didn't learn anything to get it, and it doesn't mean that much to you. And that's kind of like what I mean. Like, if you reach your destination and you don't have anything to show for it, like, you don't have it has no substance behind it, it doesn't mean anything. So, like, the journey to get there is truly, like, what's the most rewarding part, and that's the real reward. And that's kind of like, that's where I am in life right now. Like I said, if I never make the Hall of Fame, like, my journey was so cool, and I got to live my dream and playing in the NFL, and I got to do all these cool things and meet all these cool people. And at the same time, I learned about myself. Like, that's the best part. Like, to know yourself and learn yourself. Like, that's the ultimate goal in life, in my opinion.
Yes, it is. And it's been an honor to have you part of my journey in this podcasting journey, and I'm excited to somewhat be part of your journey as well. So, Brandon, thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for having me.